The morning began with laughter, sharp as dry twigs snapping under both heels. It rolled down from the saloon porch across Dawson Creek, where the wind carried dust like gossip. The kind of laughter that didn't come from joy, but from men too idle to feel anything deeper. It drifted through cracked shutters, into the bones of a town that had long forgotten how to be kind. Inside a narrow boarding house, a woman paused at her basin. Her name was Lena, 24, though sorrow had aged her beyond her years. A widow, forgotten by the same town that once pitied her. Her body was soft, full, too visible for their comfort, too human for their mercy. Outside, the laughter swelled again. They'd found themselves a new cruelty. "She's always hanging around the church," one said. "Liam's cabin could use a good sweeping," another smirked. "Let's send her there. Tell her the rancher's hiring. See how long before he throws her out." Their laughter burned through the walls like wildfire. Lena didn't need to hear the words to know the joke was her. But rent was due, and the pantry near empty. Maybe, just maybe, there really was work. So she put on her frayed shawl and stepped into the pale morning light. The road stretched lonely toward the hills. Each step felt like walking into another version of herself, one that still believed something good might happen. By the time the cabin came into view, her arms trembled. It stood alone, framed by cottonwoods and a half-dry creek. Smoke curled from the chimney in slow ribbons. Liam stood at the gate, broad-shouldered, 34, solitude written deep in his eyes. He'd lived alone since the war took his brother and half his faith in people. They called him cold. He simply preferred silence to cruelty. He looked up when she pushed the gate. For a moment, neither spoke. Only wind moved between them. Finally, she found her voice. "They said you might need someone to sweep." He frowned. The hammer paused in his hand. And then he understood. The joke, the cruelty. The hammer fell to the dirt. "Did they now?" he said quietly. She nodded. He glanced toward the town, jaw tight, then back at her, dusty, trembling, wrapped in her worn shawl. "If you came this far," he said at last, "you might as well rest a while." She hesitated, but his eyes held no mockery. Only weariness. Only truth. So she walked past him into the cabin. Inside smelled of pine and quiet. A man's life, orderly, lonely, clean except for the dust. She found a broom by the door and began to sweep softly, as if sound itself might shatter the peace. After a while, he brought water from a pump, poured it into a tin cup. "Drink," he said simply. She nodded. "Thank you." The day stretched slow. Silence turned kind. He asked no questions. She offered no explanations. Sometimes mercy doesn't need words, just room to breathe. By sundown, the floorboard shone. "You've got a steady hand," he said. "I've had practice," she answered, and for the first time he almost smiled. When she gathered her shawl, he said, "Stay for supper." "I don't want to impose." "You won't." The lamp lit the cabin in soft gold. They ate beans and venison in quiet warmth. When she left, he walked her halfway down the road with a lantern. Neither spoke. The silence said enough. The next morning, she came back, not because he asked, but because she wanted to. The cabin felt like a place where she could exist, without shrinking. Days fell into rhythm. She swept and cooked. He mended fences. Their silences began to fit together. Sometimes she hummed hymns under her breath. The sound softened the air. He'd glance up, wondering when her presence had started to feel necessary. For the first time since her husband died, she laughed, quietly, but real. One evening, he brought her a small carved box. Inside lay a hairpin, shaped like a blooming lily. "I made it," he said shyly. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Wasn't meant for anyone till now." The world shifted after that. A week later, the same men rode up to the ranch, expecting a spectacle. They found her sweeping the porch, humming softly. Liam stood nearby, sharpening his knife. "Well, I'll be," one called. "You kept her. Thought she'd scare the horses off." Laughter again. Lena froze. Her cheeks burned. Liam looked up, eyes hard as steel. He walked down the steps, slow, dangerous. "You boys got something funny to share?" "Just checking if the help's doing all right," one said. "Help." His voice went low. You mean the woman you sent here for a joke? Their smirks faltered. Liam took another step. The air trembled. You thought it'd be a fine laugh, didn't you? A lonely man and a widow. You brought cruelty to my door. Now you're standing on my land. He grabbed one by the collar. I don't want your kind near my fences again. And if I hear one more word about her, I'll bury it right here in the dirt with your pride. He let go. The man stumbled back. They mounted fast, dust rising as they fled. When silence returned, Lena trembled. You shouldn't have done that, she said. They'll talk. Let them. They'll say worse things. They already have, he said. Doesn't make them right. She looked down. I don't want to be the reason for trouble. He stepped close, gentle. Picked up her broom. You keep sweeping, Lena. This place feels like home when you do. Something inside her broke open, not pain, but release. That night, rain came. Soft at first, then steady. Inside, lamplight flickered. The air smelled of pine and wet earth. She sat by the window, watching drops chase down the glass. He carved wood at the table, pretending not to glance her way. Finally, he said, You think I don't see how they treat you? She turned. I don't care what you do, he said gently. And you should. You deserve better. Why are you kind to me, Liam? Everyone else either pities or laughs. He set down the knife. Because I know what it's like to be alone in a room full of people. Because you walk like the world tried to break you, and failed. She stared at him, breath trembling. You think they sent you here as a joke, he said. But I haven't laughed once since you came. Haven't wanted to. He knelt before her. You swept this place clean, but it's me you changed. You made me remember what quiet can feel like when it's shared. Her eyes filled. He touched her cheek lightly. You don't have to be small for anyone, he whispered. Not here. Not ever. Why are you saying this? Because if I don't, I'll regret it every damn day I wake up alone. Thunder rolled across the prairie. I thought love belonged to other people, she said. It belongs to whoever's brave enough to stay, he answered. Her tears fell, not a shame, but release. She leaned into him, forehead on his shoulder. He closed his eyes, hand over hers. For the first time in years, neither felt alone. Outside, the rain washed the dust from the earth. Inside, their hearts settled like logs in the fire. When the rain stopped, the air smelled new. Liam looked at her and smiled. Guess I owe those fools a thank you. For what? She asked. For sending you my way. She laughed softly. You're impossible. Maybe, he said. But I'm not letting you go. Her breath caught. Then I guess I'm not leaving. And just like that, what began as a cruel joke became something holy. A quiet promise between two souls who found mercy in each other's hands. Outside, the prairie slept under rain and wood smoke. Inside, peace. And if the old storyteller were to end it, he'd say this. Maybe the world once sent you somewhere cruel, thinking you'd break. But maybe, like Lena, you found someone who refused to let you go. If this tale found your heart tonight, leave a sign, so the story knows it isn't alone out there on the wind. Because love, like a good story, always travels farther than the laughter meant to end it.